Right, so you've seen the intro, so if you like what you see and you haven't subscribed already, give us a subscribe, and the thumbs up and comments always help. If you want a weirdo thumbs down, crack on, you're helping the channel. Right, so welcome back. This is part 2, okay? For the bulk of this, you're going to have to refer to part 1. That's basically, for most of you, that is what you're going to like. If you want the little bit of extra detail, just to kind of bring the depth out of things and just to kind of finish the paint job off, you don't have to go mad with it, but it does make a difference. So as you can see here, to make a bit of a change, what I've done is I've put in these kind of trees here. Okay, so what that basically does is you've got the camouflage of the vehicle that when you're quite close, you can see it all. When you're further and further away, it makes it a kind of blob. Do you know what I mean? It all blends to one colour. What these do is they actually kind of give you a bit of depth to it, so they'll look a bit closer, they'll look a bit, you know, a bit further forward, which then starts to break the shape up again. Like the older camouflage is where it used to be the greens, the blacks. Okay, so what I'm doing to kind of make these a bit more three-dimensional again is I just use the corner of the little template. You can ideally, you don't hold this tight up to it, otherwise you end up with a perfectly straight line. You bring it away slightly, either scuff it up, ruffle it, what have you, just to break up that straight edge, because again, there's no straight edges in nature. And you're going to hold it in, you're going to pick a light side, and you're going to dust the light side, then you're going to pick a dark side, and you're going to dust the dark side. What this does is it gives you the element that there's some light and there's some shade. If there's some light and there's some shade, it means there's an object there, okay, which makes your eye draw to it and make it look further and further out. Okay, so further on, we're going to get some bark on here when I get the airbrush back, but not only that, we're going to put some leaves with the stencil. Okay, so you saw in the previous video how I cut some trees, cut some leaves, things like that. We held them up and we used them as a kind of a mask, and then we sprayed over it, which gave us the outline of that, leaving that piece in. Okay, that gives us a brilliant kind of broken texture. However, there's no detail to that, so as you get closer and closer, you want to be picking up the detail. So that's where these come in. Again, you can hold it flush up to it, it gives you a perfectly straight stencil. Personally, I like to just lift one corner, so when you dust it, one side kind of tapers away and it's not as sharp. The other thing I like to do, which I'm going to show you now, is the way that we use the black, let it dry, come back and use a colour. You can use two colours as well, but we slightly offset them. By offsetting it, it gives a shadow of the object, which makes it look like it's lifted off, which again, your eye just automatically assumes depth. Okay, so let's have a couple of goes. What I do is I get military vehicle paint, and the local paint shop close to me, Doncaster Auto Paints, what they do is I get them to put it in a rattle can for me. It costs more money to do this, but you can then just use the rattle cans rather than putting it through a spray gun, which makes life easier. So you're kind of valuing your time, but it costs more. What this is, I just went in with the RAL numbers. If you're not familiar with RAL numbers, it's colour codes. You can Google it, it's all there. You find the RAL numbers you want, you tell them you can either have gloss, satin or matte. I like satin because I find that matte fades and it also gets dirty and shows scratches more, so I go for a satin. The other paint that I've got to try is the Halfords ones. Okay, these are slightly less expensive, but they're also a smaller can, so it's not as good value for money. However, if that's all you've got to hand, I'm showing that you can do it for different paints and it all works the same. The only thing you can't mix and match is the different paint, kind of the chemicals, so you can't have like the water-based, so all the rest of it. You can put them over the top, but however, if they do mix, it can bubble up, it can react, there's all kinds of different things. Stick to one kind, I just go with the 1Ks, okay? Let's get started. So what we're going to do to start with is we're going to put a bit of shadow on here. So what we're going to do, we've got the stencil. Again, you can make these up or just buy it off eBay. I think this was around about £5, so bargain. What we're going to do, I'm going to choose that leaf there. I'm just going to randomly put it here. Like I say, I always leave one side slightly off and don't paint down the edge because you'll get a straight line. And just bang it on, as you can see there. Straight away we've got a shadow. It stands out like a sore thumb, but don't worry, we'll address that in a minute. Okay, it's got to be random. Don't get carried away and just put them in one set pattern. Walk away every now and again and look where you're doing things. So what I tend to do is I'll look for a bit like this where it's tan. Okay, so we're going to have that contrasted. but we're not just going to go along the tan, we're going to go from the tan to another colour. Right, we get another one up here where it's light. And we'll have a different kind of leaf because we don't want it all the same. And then down here. So you give that a little bit to dry then, and what you do is from here you find the same pattern again and you're going to match it up. Once you've matched it up like this, that's perfectly matched up, we're then going to lift it and move it to the side ever so slightly, and then we're going to dust it with green. What that then does is you've got the leaf and a shadow behind it. When that's done again, we can dust it with a slightly darker colour, which then gives it the shape of the leaf. Or you can just leave it like that. It's a process where you go as far as you want with it. Where are we? What shape's that one? This one here. So, match it up, lift it ever so slightly, dust it on. I'll show you close up what this does. So again, we're just going to give this a bit of depth. That's what we're doing. And come around the other side. Is the tree's coming down here. So we're just going to, I'm going to aim for just on the edge here, and I want the overspray to go on here. Okay, so you can see straight away, that makes it look like there's light all on one side. It's still a little bit too bright, but we can bring that back darker again. Like I've said, always start bright and you can always tone it down a little bit. So then on the other side, we'll just flip reverse it. So that side, and what that does, it just gives a bit of shade. To give a bit of effect on here, you can just lightly dust. It doesn't look like you're doing much, but it does build up. Okay, so that's how we get the light and the dark. So here it's a little bit difficult to see. I've got another branch coming up in this direction. So again, the left hand side is going to be the light. It's going to be consistent. Okay, so we'll do just here. I'll get some black. Flip reverse it. If that's been of any use to you, leave us a comment, let us know what you think, if you've got anything constructive to say. Obviously this isn't to everybody's taste, but it's my vehicle and it worked well for me. You can apply this to many other things like the ammo boxes, like the steps, anything else. You've seen the high lift jack on the front, so yeah, that's how I've done my real tree, and it works. Right, so that's another video out of the way now. We've got a little bit more daylight left, so little one's here with me. She's been giving me a hand off camera. We're going to go hit some targets and stuff, and she's getting really good now. She's getting a 2p piece size grouping, so yeah, awesome work, really proud. In the middle of the tape? Put your finger on the trigger. Slowly pull.
Did I get that?
Dead centre of the tape, good shooting.